Welcome back to the It's Only Kids Football podcast, a place where we try to navigate the frustrating, wild and utterly beautiful world of kids football without having a full meltdown on the touchline. I'm your host, and alongside me is my assistant manager and co-host Mike Clark. Today we're tackling the big stuff, mentality, intensity, and how on earth you actually get the best out of young players without breaking their spirit. Joining us today, we've got two ex-pros turned top-class coaches from the Complete Football Academy. First up, Kudus Oyenuga, CFA lead coach, head of player development, and alongside him, Garry Richards, CFA coach, head of operations. Chaps, welcome to the show. Your CVs were too long, so we'll cover your experience and credentials across the next hour. But how are you doing? And thanks for coming on.
Honestly, thanks for having us on the podcast. Really appreciate you guys having us on. So Ben and Mike, thank you so much. Again, look forward to obviously joining and speaking about our experiences and how we do things at CFA.
Should we talk about Garry? No, Garry, let's talk about how late you were. Let's start with that. Yeah. Let's start with that. Garry, can you tell the audience how many minutes late you were for us starting?
I think I ended up on a footballer's timing. I think I was 2 minutes late. I think it was more like 14 minutes late.
Footballer's timing.
Oh man. Put it this way, he went into the next bracket of fines with how late he was. He went into the next bracket. The first 5 minutes is always an easy one, and after that is when you get fined the big money. He's in that bracket.
It's a big talking point, technology and footballers, but that's for another day. Eh?
Also, Garry, you are head of operations. I think that is very concerning that as head of operations you were unable to join a podcast. But we won't worry about that. Obviously, just for everyone's awareness, my son Alfie and Mike's son Raf both go CFA, and my youngest son Charlie has just started. So we've seen these guys in action. So Kudus, throughout my career of working in sports media, I've dealt with Chris Ramsey quite a lot, and obviously we had him on the pod, and he's always so fantastic. He makes coaching sound so simple. With your experiences of him, what do you think he was really good at? And what have you said you've taken little bits from the different people you worked with? What did you take from Chris as a coach, and how do you apply that? And how did he get the best out of you?
I think Chris is one of the best coaches I've had especially as a young academy prospect growing through the ranks. And I think one thing I'll say Chris is really good at, he's adaptable, and it's helped me in my career because I think top coaches are adaptable. The coaches who can coach a 3-year-old, a 5-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 14-year-old, a 16-year-old, an 18-year-old, a full-time pro. I think Chris was really, really good at being adaptable. He had different faces. The face he'd give a 4-year-old would be different to how he'd train a 8-year-old and a 12-year-old. And I think that's one thing I've really focused on in my coaching. I feel like I'm very adaptable to how I coach. So if you see me on a Saturday morning, I'm smiley Kudus, spinning around. The kids are like, oh, wow, you see me on a development session, I'm a different Kudus. And see me coaching older players, pros, I'm also a different face. So I think, for me, top coaches are top coaches because they can be different people at different times, if that makes sense. I don't get me wrong, you get specialists, under 18 coaches are just specialists at that age group. And you get some coaches who are just really good at working from the first phase of under 7s to under 10s. By the way, then you get the pre academy ones who are really good from 3 years old to 5 year old. So I think knowing what you do, but I think Chris Ramsey was a great coach. I think he was really adaptable and he could coach any age group and make it look quite simple, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. One of the other hats of a coach that I'm really interested in is the dad coach. Obviously, your daughter now plays, as you were saying just before we went live. So you got the different faces you do, right, for the different age groups and different abilities. What's the face you're pulling when you're coaching your actual child?
You know what? This is going to be Norma. So she played 2 years ago, last season, and 2 seasons ago, and obviously last season. And honestly, I say to parents all the time, with my daughter, I do not say anything to her. I might say the odd word to her on the pitch, like nay, like mark up or an A, first contact, win the header. But apart from that, you wouldn't hear me screaming and shouting at her on the side, playing the game for her. I'm very much kind of chilled. A lot of the time I kind of stand back as well. So, you get all the parents on one side. I kind of stay back, to be fair. Sometimes I might go on the phone watching her, but kind of watching her from a distance. Obviously, listen, as she's enjoyed it more, and she's starting to do more. I might give her a bit of time. Don't get me wrong, she's had the odd times. So I'm like, and hey, make sure you win the first header. She's like, Dad, shut up. But in terms of that, maybe like I'm not the person who's going to be getting onto her, screaming and shouting at her. It's funny now where I manage it now. Obviously with the we've made a new under 12s Warriors team. So managing her now, I say to everybody, you guys have seen me coach. I'm black and white. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you're doing really, really well, listen, I'll give you loads of praise. If you need an A, wake up, come on. You're gonna get that. So I think when she first started, I was quite hard on her when I trained her individually. But yeah, she's thriving now, and I think a lot of it's down to making sure that she's on it and she's keep on working. So yeah, I'm not the screaming, shouting dad on the side when I'm watching her. When I do coach her though, again, like all the other children, I am on the high standards, making sure they're performing how they should be performing.
What she as a boy, Kudus? It's a different story, right?
You know what? No, because I thought obviously Garry has his son in his team in the last couple of years, obviously through Fletcher. But no, you know what? My daughter always says to me, "Oh, Dad, you're a bit easier on the girls." I'm like, "What do you mean?" She was like, "Oh, like you give us like 2-3 minutes recovery, whereas the boys, you're like, yeah, add a drink, get back in." I'm like, nah, like I said, you girls like to chat a bit more, so I give you an extra 30 seconds to talk, and then boom, I want your attention again. So, but nah, I think whether I had a boy or not, I'm not like that, because again, I don't want to be telling parents on the side to keep quiet, and then when I coach my daughter, when my daughter's playing and I'm not managing, being that dad on the side, shouting at her, "Oh, you know, do this, do that." So in terms of when I go to her matches, I'm quite chill. Do you know what I mean? I might say the odd word to her, but apart from that, I'm not playing the game for her. And I think it's good for parents. I think it's good for parents to be like that. I think when she's with another coach, I'm dad. When she's with me, I'm manager. But again, how I coach her and all the other kids is the same. I'm probably harder on her a bit more than the other girls, but again, sometimes I'm like to parents like, look, I'm harder on my daughter than anybody else. So no one can then be like, "Oh, Kudus, you're being a bit on my daughter." I'm like, nah, she gets it way, way worse than everybody else. So I kind of make sure I get that blend where I'm like, yeah.
It's so hard not to do it though, isn't it? And one thing that I heard loud and clear from you was you're watching her, but you're also not transfixed on her. And that is something that, as like a coach dad, it's really difficult to just not focus in on your child when you're coaching a whole team. And I think it's a skill, and it's one that most grassroots coaches have that problem of, especially if they're real novices, like most grassroots coaches, is that this is their first experience coaching kids. It's their first experience most of the time coaching football, and then their child's in the team most of the time. So one is like trying to not treat them any differently, which is a challenge, but also not to focus in on them, because then that's when you pick up everything good but everything bad, and that's when it can start to spiral. So yeah, I think from what you were saying, you don't necessarily do that, right?
Yeah, that's 100%. I think I find it having obviously dad coaches in our teams, sometimes I think they over focus on their child. I'm like, literally just let your child play football, because if you're constantly shouting your child's name, you're not going to get the best out of him. So just try and focus on the team. And I do tell parents at the time, if you're going to take a team, it's not your child's team. Like, you got another 7, 8 kids you're going to be coaching. So it's the whole team. So try and focus on, you know what, you drop your child to training, and then boom, I'm trying to, what does she need? What does he need? I think that's where you really got to try and focus on them. You know what, I can speak to my child in the car a bit more, or give them a bit of a pep talk before we get to training. Like, look, I'm not going to be on you today. Make sure you're on it. Make sure you're concentrated. Listen, I don't want to be telling you off or mucking about. Like, you should kind of be setting an example for me. Do you know what I mean? If that makes sense. You don't want to be going to a session and
Definitely.
It's your kid fraffing around. And so I think kind of doing it before and after is more important than doing it during the session. During the session, so you coach everybody else. Don't get me wrong, if your child is mucking about or doing something brilliant, tell them they're doing something brilliant. If they're not doing something brilliant, I think try and teach them, keep them like how you would do with any other child.
Yeah, Gary, listen, it's Kudus is pretending he's all nice, and we know that's not true. So, but Gary, three boys, football family. You come from. You said you had your dad on the sideline. You've got three sons. Honest, God's honest truth, no bullshit. What are you like with your sons? Because me and Mike. Well, I've only got two boys, and Mike's got a daughter, and he admits that he is definitely harder on the boy than the girl. What are you like with your three sons?
Like I said, kind of. Obviously, I grew up as obviously a football kid, but at the same time, one of three boys as well myself. So I was the younger one, wasn't I? So the younger one always gets the shortest straw, right? And for me, obviously, just like if you put into context my own children versus other children, if I'm managing a team, for example, like a lot of the time I'm with my eldest boy's team, Fletcher, I would always like to think that I'm consistent with all of the boys from the sideline and on the pitch. But at the same time, listen, I think we would be lying if we was either biased in one way or the other way. For me, I'm probably biased the other way, in the fact that I'm probably harder on him maybe sometimes than I am on the other boys, because of, you feel that expectation. You've got other parents watching in on you, and you don't want to be the other way. You don't want to be seen to be favouring too much of your boy. So I'd probably say I'm probably sometimes more the other way. Sometimes maybe because of, you feel that pressure that you don't want to be to the other parents, you're favouring your boy over other ones. So I probably think he probably gets the tougher end of the stick on that side of things. But as a collective for my boys, I mean, my youngest is only 4 years old, just starting out now. But my other two, they're on different journeys as well too, you know. So my expectations of them is very different. So if I'm, for example, taking Cooper's team on a Sunday, I rarely do. I leave that to the dad most of the time. Even if I'm there, I'll give the dad a few pointers and stuff like that from a coaching side of things. But they're a different group. He's a different child. They're on a different journey. Expectations is very different. Whereas if I'm taking, for example, Fletcher's team, my expectations of Fletcher and that group are more of an advanced group of children, looking to progress on to higher levels at the moment, playing tougher challenges. The details need to be a little bit more. Then, of course, I'm going to be different towards Fletcher in that environment and those kids in that environment, if that kind of made sense, you know?
No, absolutely. And I'm not that, obviously I don't have your background, but it's quite similar. Like Alfie's team they're kind of a much higher. Well, I mean, Charlie's team's only just starting out, but they're kind of a much, from where they're starting was a different starting point to where Alfie's team was starting with. So there was Alfie's team, they could do, a lot of the boys could do stuff straight away. And you kind of, their game understanding, they just kind of had the natural understanding of what they were meant to be doing. And you could kind of show them something and they'd be able to do it. Whereas Charlie's team's just starting out, and it's a different kind of, we're starting from a very different foundation. And I know that boys can develop, because I've seen it. They all develop. They can develop really quickly, and where you kind of think they are now, they can absolutely skyrocket. So I'm not I don't believe they are where they are, but my belief is that the boys that will, with my son, I've got him training like most nights, and he is accelerating because of that. And that it's basically, how much do you want it? And if you want to be good, then this is what you got to do. And if you don't, then that's no problem. But you only progress at the speed with which you put the level of effort in. So I understand it. And certainly everything you're saying about being able to not wanting to favour your son, I think like me and Mike are so guilty of that. Like we are, you know what it is with your son is, I can handle mistakes and I can handle not doing things correctly. What I cannot accept is if my son is not giving the absolute 100% effort, best attitude, listening, focused, concentrated, want to throw his body in the way of everything. That is when I get annoyed. I can handle the other stuff, but if you ain't going to do that, then you're going to find out that I'm annoyed. And I think, Mike, you're probably the same, right? That's what we get agitated with, is attitude, not the execution, because we understand there's mistakes are going to happen.
And Kudus, you said the same thing, right? It's the kind of listening that they should be the exemplar child in training when your dad is the coach. And sometimes, quite often actually, our boys are not that that child. So if they're the ones messing about, that's a whole different level of anger. Yeah. But when it's the other boys, this is the other thing now. It's about striking that balance. And I think sometimes we don't strike it well because our boys can just step out of line slightly and it will be World War III. Whereas other kids can basically do what they want. It's like Ferguson and Cantona. You know, Cantona literally just karate kicking people in the face, and Fergie's like, "Oh, don't do that, mate." Oh, but if it was someone else, like if it was Gary Neville doing that, he would have gone absolutely apeshit. So sometimes I think it's a bit like that with coaches' kids. But when we talk about kind of striking that balance, one thing that we've spoken about a lot, especially recently, is that mental toughness, resilience. With your backgrounds and the fact that you are these top level coaches, it'd be really good to just dive into that a little bit. Just maybe what you picked up through the academies, how you're trying to build these mentally tough, resilient kids through sport, through football. Is there any tips and tricks that or advice that you can give to our audience on how you can best achieve that?
You know what? Listen, I've obviously myself, Garry. And I think a lot of people sometimes just think about footballers. A lot of the time, there's loads of people who we walk past every day who have come through cancer. One of our friends, someone in our community, he got through cancer. Again, obviously, we'll mention his name. But again, he had the mental strength to push forward, if that makes sense. So sometimes I think we equate just football. But in terms of mentality, it's not, oh, you play football, you got mentality. It's everyday kind of life. You want to push, you want to do more, you want to be better. So in terms of mentality, I say sometimes it's not just on a football pitch, it's at home. And a lot of the time with kids, even my daughter sometimes, like as a coach, I look at kids sometimes, I think you've got so much more, but you don't want to push yourself more. And by the way, when you come CFA, you guys have been your kids, you're going to get pushed. I think I had a parent come up to me a few weeks ago and he says, "No, Kudus, I think my son's at a good level. Can you see him a bit more? Sometimes you put him on the upper side." And I said to him, "Listen, mate, I've watched your boy for the last 6 weeks and he's coasting through sessions. I'm not trying to push him and he's coasting through the sessions. Like, I know he can give a bit more." Like, I think you mentioned about blocking and challenging. So tell your son to give me more, to show me more. By the way, you come to the session, ratting, tackling, I'm not, you know what? He's giving me 10% more, but that's a mentality shift. He's gone from being a coaster to I'm going to push a bit more. My daughter's the same. I say all the time, you give a kid an inch, they'll take them out. Like, if you told my daughter to train 1 time a week or 2 times a week or train 5 times a week, mate, what's your kid going to say? I'm going to train 1 or 2 times a week because they'd rather be on the iPads talking to their friends. So with me, I say all the time, listen, when you're training, I don't give no inches. I'll give you a minute break, recovery, come back in. Do you know what I mean? You're going to play because I want to get the best out of you. I want to get everything out of you. And I think when training 60 minutes, I say to Garry all the time, you at CFA, you're training for 55 minutes. You boys have seen your kids, you train for 55 minutes. You've got the ball with you. You're getting some sort of tactical work. You're getting some type of physical work. You're showing some mental work. And I think that's what kids need. What we and Garry try and do, and obviously what we try and do at CFA, is we are just trying to push. We're trying to grow. Do you know what I mean? The kids have so much more in their locker. Like, if my daughter could go literally, and not just my daughter, if they can go 50%, they'll go 50%. Nah, go 100%. I remember Les Ferdinand said to me one time, we done a run around the pitch and I cruised the first 2-3 laps and then I run the last bit really fast. Les was like to me, "Cool." I was like, "Yeah." I think I finished at 4th or 5th. I've done a good score. He goes, "Oh, you had way more than what you gave." I was like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Look how fast you ran on the last bit." He goes, "I'd rather you push yourself. And you know what? If you gas out, you know you need to work, get fitter, you need to get stronger." And I was like, I remember going home, this must have been like 15, 20 years ago. I remember going home like, you know what? He's right. Like, I cruised. Listen, it's not to say about, listen, everything you do, you got 100 miles per hour, but Les was right. I was fitter than what I showed. I chose the option to, I'm all right, I'm going to run around, I'm going to cruise, but am I really going to push myself and show, you know what, I finished fifth that day. I probably could have finished second or first or second. So in terms of that, that stuck with me as a player. So I think for kids as well, is trying to just keep on pushing them. Do you know what I mean? Kids have so much more, and sometimes I think parents want to protect them. They want to, oh no, don't do that. I think Garry laughed at me one time. We had a parent come to one of our sessions in Romford. It must have been like a year and a half ago, and kids come in as a taster session, and I'm teaching. I'm telling the boys to do V1, V2, and he's struggling a bit. And I was like, "Come on, mate, you can do it. Like, you can do it. I'm watching you." His mum's walked into the pitch, take him off the pitch, and I was like to the mum, "What are you doing?" I said, "Get off the pitch." She said, no, he's struggling. Can't you see him crying? I was like, no, leave him on the pitch. He's gonna get it. Took him off the pitch, and I was like, that's the worst thing that mum could have done. Like, she's ruined him. Like, I don't know where the kid is right now, but she done the worst thing ever. Because that kid could have got it, and not he could have got it, he would have got it. She just came in and tried to save the day too early, and I was like, nah, he needed that because he was doing it, but because he weren't doing it perfect, she pulled him out. So yeah, I think football's a game where you got to, not football, life is mentally, you've got to be ready to keep on going, keep on pushing, and try your best.
Quick break. Before we dive back into the episode, we want to take a moment to help you level up your coaching game with the help of Football DNA, the ultimate coaching platform that's been a game changer for us. What do we love about it? It's super easy to use, saves us loads of time, and best of all, it doesn't just show you how to set up a practice, it teaches you how to coach it properly. And that's the key. The sessions are put together by top level coaches. We're talking first team staff at clubs like Celtic, Crystal Palace and West Ham. Proper pedigree. You get videos, diagrams, full explanations, downloadable PDFs, and if you need it, a full 36-week training plan tailored to the age group you are coaching. Our lads have loved the sessions. It's made our lives easier, improved our coaching, and taught us loads. Now we genuinely look forward to training and developing our players. Check it out at footballdna.co.uk. That's footballdna.co.uk, or you can download the app. Just search Football DNA. Trust us now and you'll thank us later. Don't you think it's funny how as a like when you're growing up and the whole time you're working through your career, you're thinking, I want to do as well as I can do so that my kids have got better than me. I'm just going to keep grafting. I want to give them everything I got. And then when you get to that point and you give them more than you got, you start having a go at them for having more than what you had. But you worked. All you've done is get to the point because you're so desperate to give them more. And then as soon as you give them more, you're like, you don't deserve it. You ain't grateful enough. And I do exactly the same. All I do is have a go at them about how lucky they are. But all I've done is try to give them more. It doesn't make any sense. And kudos. The reason we came to CFA was because we heard about you and someone told me about you being tough on them, and that's a bit of me. So, and then I loved it that you would make them run around the pitch if they're bouncing the ball and if they're talking when you're coaching, because I hate all of that. It really winds me up. And I loved it. And then even with Alf, I was preparing Alf. I was like, listen, this geezer ain't going to mess about. If you go out there and you mess about, he's going to let you have it. And just so you know, don't come crying over to me if he does that. Like, you either work hard and listen or don't bother. And he actually, maybe because I've shouted at him the whole time that I've been with him, he kind of responded it too well. But Garry, just to give you an opportunity to answer that question, what did you take from your experience in the professional game and in the academy that you think helps shape mental resilience and toughness in young players?
Well, kind of going back onto kind of my earlier days, if you like. Obviously, I was watching my older siblings. I was watching particularly my middle brother is 5 years older than me. And he went through the system with West Ham, and lots of superstars came out of that group. They was the group that went on to win the FA Youth Cup and the Milk Cup in Ireland and so on and so forth. So at kind of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, I was watching a 15-year-old Joe Cole, Izzy Rickapen, Amos was there at the time. And then eventually Glenn Johnson came along into that group. Michael Carrick's came on. So But within that period, obviously there was an environment that was created of that production line at West Ham, and that was built all around obviously those basic principles that you spoke about there. Obviously, discipline, work ethic, culture, winning environment, working hard, and stuff like that. So that kind of exposed me at an early stage as a player, probably to install that into my own game at an early stage. But kind of when it comes to the pitch and our environment, again, kind of going back to knowing your levels and what's the next step for the player, the team, that individual. And if that next step is that they're playing lower level football at the moment, it don't mean that they can't play higher level and go into academy and stuff like that in the future. It just means that's not the next step on their journey. So I'm not going to be preparing them for higher level football or potential academy level football and trials and stuff like that. Whereas if I'm training a group, a team, which I am most of the time during the week outside development sessions, that are higher level grassroots, then their next step has got to be, if they want to, because if you ask the question to the kids who wants to be a professional footballer, everyone sticks their hand up. And then obviously you've got to set the guidelines, you've got to set the expectations to go from where they are now to where they want to go in the future. And that next step for the highest level grassroots kid is, can they now start to go into academy trials and the academy system? And if that's what they aspire and want to do, then my job as a coach is to prepare them for that. Because of when you're picking your nose and doing a nonsense at a West Ham, a Colchester United and Ipswich, and distracting other people and not working hard and not putting your body on the line, that ain't going to cut it at that level, because that's the requirements, that's the basic minimum, like you said. So my job is to install that into that environment at that particular time. And I think maybe sometimes it is getting that balance of recognition of when they're doing the things correctly and things well, but at the same time making small punishments that can push them outside their comfort zone, i.e. when they mess up, or not necessarily when they mess up, or when they're not working hard enough and competing well enough against each other, because that's a big part of a team environment, making them do a few press-ups, making them do a few laps, because of now they're associating a small bit of pain against not installing the basic principles into their own game, So it's kind of give and take sometimes. But for sure, all you're trying to do with high-level grassroots kids is continue to push the comfort zone and give them a clear expectation of, you're here now to get to that next level. This isn't a question mark. This is non-negotiable,
I think, what you said there definitely resonates. But is it, we talk a lot about like man management, and when we first started speaking about man management with like 7-year-olds, we thought this is just ridiculous. Well, why are we talking about this? But I think there's a lot into it. So when you're talking about there, those like mini punishments, if you like, we've got some kids in our team that would love to do press ups and they love doing laps, and that's just not a punishment for them. But you can think of something else that they wouldn't necessarily like. How much, in terms of like the communication side of things, how much do you have to think about the individual child and what would work for them? How do you push them individually when you're in a big group setting?
Just like football, it's obviously experience. It's getting it wrong a lot of times over and over again before you get it right. It's knowing the individual. It's really hard to build a relationship with someone that's maybe been with you for 2 weeks or you've only seen 2 times. Whereas if you've been with someone for 6 months, you know what buttons to push a little bit more at different times. You know what they respond to a little bit more. Again, sometimes you get it wrong. Sometimes you get it right. Sometimes you might try a different approach that works, but it's not going to work with that individual. So I think a lot of the time when it comes to kids coaching, it's a little bit of organised chaos. It's trial and error, and just learning and having the humility as a coach to come away from a session, a match, a season, and go, what worked well, what didn't work well, what did I do, how could I improve the session, how did I get the most out of players, what could I have done better to get even more out of them, So I think you've just got to be humble enough as a coach to go, do you know what, I come away from a session, I should have been better at X, Y, and Z. Next time, can I do that? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
kind of self-reflection is again just something that Ben and I are constantly thinking about. It's after every session, before every match. It's what should we be doing? Did we do it? Probably not. We probably messed up again. But can we do it better next time? And that's half the battle, isn't it? It's just having that self-awareness to say I've messed up, but that's not necessarily a problem. Just try not to mess up next time, or just try to make in these incremental steps. And I think we were really, when you look back, Ben, we were so hard on ourselves when we'd like thrust into this position, mess up every week, just like spiraling out of control almost, of just, you know, shouting at kids, making our own kids cry, then us feeling horrible afterwards, and then just not really knowing how to make it any better. And I think just talking about it, that's why we started this podcast, really, was just like talking about these mistakes, trying to improve, but also realizing to just not get too down on yourself when you do make mistakes, because they are inevitable.
I think obviously we're lucky enough that we have each other. We have a relationship where, like, Kudus will often, he might come to one of my matches or training sessions and be watching, and he might watch for a couple of weeks. I might do the same to him. Sometimes it's by default, sometimes it's by design a little bit maybe, but it works that way within obviously all of our coaches. And Kudus will go to me, Gal, look, I can see that particular individual, he's struggling a bit at the moment, or like maybe today when your team started to lose 3-0, maybe like the game was already done and if you use a bit, and he'll have that little reflection sometimes with me, whereas I'm still a little bit in the emotional game mode, and I'm like, do you know what? I listen to him, and you're right. Like, maybe I could have been better in that instance. And the same with Kudus, I'll say the same, and the same with all of our other coaches. I think like sometimes you've got the team of players, but when you've got a few coaches together and you're able to bounce off each other a little bit, that really helps on that communication side of things. Because sometimes as a coach, it can feel quite solo. You can feel quite isolated. But I think sometimes it is good to have someone in your ear to say, do you know what? Like, try this for the next couple of weeks. And they're like, yeah, do you know what, Kil? You're right. I'm going to try that because of this is what I'm doing at the moment. It ain't getting the best. Do you know what I mean?
This point was me and Mike were talking about. So a couple of games we've had recently, I've had to step in as the first half as the ref because the ref got the wrong day, whatever. Anyway, they came in the end. But what we both realised was that not doing it both on the sideline, you realise how hard it is when someone isn't there next to you, like trying to do everything, because it's not like you're dealing with adults, right? So basically, not one of you can see everything, because one's watching the ball and the other person needs to watch what's not happening on the ball, because we're talking about shape then. So you can sort of talk that you're watching what the kid who's got the ball and around them, but then it's are you in a shape to defend if you lose the ball? So you need two of you like basically looking at that. And then the other thing is obviously the kids on the sideline. When am I coming on? Can I have a drink? I need to go to the toilet. Blah, blah, blah. They're just talking all this stuff to you. And you're like, listen, we are fighting in a game that has no tangible outcome and no 3 points, but it means everything to me. So stop talking to me because I can't concentrate. Right. But when you've got someone with you, you are able to split it. It's just so much less stressful. So I definitely think having those people around you is really important.
And I agree. I think sometimes me and Garry coach by ourselves. So a lot of time the coach goes. I think a lot of our grassroots teams, we've kind of said to the dads, "Oh, look, have another dad on the side so you can have help." But a lot of our JPO teams are quite solo, so it helps so much because you know how it is. One time, I think you might sub a kid off, but because you're concentrating on the game, you don't slap his hand, or give him a handshake. Then the parents complaining to you, say, "Hey, you didn't give him a high five," but you're like, "I didn't mean to not give him a high five. It was just like." The game was still going on at the same time, and I was concentrating on us defending because the other team's got an overload and they're dominating. So, and you got what I mean. So a lot of the time, I think as parents don't see the full picture. They sometimes feel say, "Oh, he subbed my kid off," or "This has happened," or "That's happened." But I always say to parents as well, like, don't ever speak to a coach after a match. I always say to parents, speak to me 24 hours after, because if you speak to me before that, you're not going to get a good outcome out of me. Do you know what I mean? So after a game, do you know what I mean? You two are both going to have your emotions, whether it's a win, whether it's a loss. So listen, speak to me 24 hours after if you've got a problem, and then we can deal with it then. But I think sometimes being by yourself, sometimes people don't realize how much you've got on. You're managing subs, you're managing the team, you're managing parents, you're then doing a risk assessment in your head. Oh, this kid might hurt himself, or someone might get injured, and you got to do that. So there's so many variables, so many outcomes, which sometimes I think as coaches, parents don't realise how much we do. And I commend anyone who does coach on a side or on a weekend, whether you get paid, whether you don't get paid, whether you do it at the love of the game, whether you do it because your child's in it, you're doing something which is difficult. And again, it's commend people who do it, because a lot of the time we get a lot of we get a lot of stick, we get a lot of ag, but listen, we're trying to help children, improve adults, or whoever plays football, trying to just help.
I think the emotional side of things is just, it's inevitable. And whenever I see those coaches that are just super calm, you know, like step back, just watching these games, not saying anything, I commend them, but I don't know how they do it, because it's so emotionally charged. Like Ben said, these games mean nothing. These kids are so young, it doesn't mean anything, but you just become so invested in it because you want them to do well. You just want the best for them, and you just want to keep pushing them. But because of that, then you look at all of those decisions that you're having to make across a game that you just described there, Kudus, is all that layered on the fact that you're in this emotional state half the time. So that's why you're probably not going to get the type of response you typically get after a game. You know, after a game, you're emotionally charged, win, lose, whatever. So yeah, that response is different. And that's the same with your kids as well. We've noticed, like, giving the feedback. We talk a lot about the car ride home, right? Again, previously when we started out, terrible. Then it's just, now it's working out when's the best time when you're not too emotionally charged, when your child isn't too emotionally charged. And then for Ben, it's at bedtime. For me, it's like at dinner time. Finding the right time to communicate with them when you're not in this state. And it's the same with the parents. And I again, unless you live it, unless you're a coach, you don't really fully understand what these coaches are going through.
Quick one for the coaches and volunteers listening. If you're sorting kits for a grassroots team, you'll know the pain. It's never as simple as it should be. That's exactly why Discount Football Kits exists. They supply quality football kits at prices that actually work for grassroots clubs. No nonsense, no hard sell, just reliable teamwear that turns up on time and looks the part on match day. From full team kits to training wear for growing squads, everything's built to make your life easier. If you're tired of overpaying or overthinking kits, head to discountfootballkits.com and get your team sorted today. Go Cardless makes collecting payments simple with automatic direct debit. Membership fees come in on time every month without watching parents dig through their pockets only to find a crisp packet or race into the cash point while you wait in the rain. There's no more, I'll give it to you next week. You can just drop a link into your WhatsApp group and bingo. Payments are sorted. It handles the admin too, automatically keeping track of who's paid, what's outstanding, and retrying any payments that didn't go through, helping your club keep a steady cash flow for pitch hire, kits, and equipment. You can even pause or adjust payments when families need flexibility, keeping your club supportive and inclusive. Go Cardless takes care of the money so you can focus on running great sessions and growing your club. I want to know how there's a line, right? And I'm always on the wrong side of the line with my own son, which is I want to push you. You know, you talked about that mum coming on and taking the kid off when he cried, right? So I love that, because I think that there's been times with Alfie, not in football, but there's been a couple of other incidents with Alfie in life where he didn't want to do something and he was crying and he was begging me not to do it, and I made him do it, and I wasn't very nice about it, and then he did it. And then he was like, the confidence, the belief that came from it was like, I got on the other side of fear. I was scared and I didn't want to do it, but now I'm the other side of it. But in that moment, you know, I'm not being nice. And if anyone was watching it, they'd be like, God, that bloke's an arsehole. Is that kid's only little? Why is he doing that? But that's that's just my method. What is that fine line between I'm going to push you so you can see what you're capable of without, because like, it can go the other way. And I've got it wrong with Alfie a couple of times where, you know, I've pushed him so hard that he's got upset and not wanted to play. So there's a fine line. How do you tread that line and get it right where you push them so they overcome fear, but you don't crush them so they lose confidence?
I think as coaches, you're still learning, you're still growing. I think with me, trying to find the fine line between not being too over, it's just more sensing the child and understanding where I can. So that child, it was his first day. But I could see he could do it. He just needed to repeat it. Do you know what I mean? Because you ask him to a V1, V2. Over a course of time, he's going to do it. But I think with me, it's just having that sense. I know that, you know what, sometimes I might tell someone to do a skill and they can't do it. So I say to them, you got 3 weeks to know how to do that. So make sure you go home, tell mum and dad, you know what to practice. You know what to practice when you get home. And you know what? That kid will show me 2 weeks later. I'll be like, okay, show me a demo. And that kid will be like, yeah. I'm like, okay, you're putting your hand up to do it. You go and do it. And I think with kids, they've got so much potential. They've got so much potential to grow. They all do. But again, you just need to believe in them. And a lot of time, I believe in them. So when parents don't believe in them, I believe in them. So I genuinely believe, you know what, you can do it. And it don't mean that you've got to play in the Premier League. Like, we've probably got over 400 kids in our academy. Or you might not get one kid who plays in the Premier League. Do you know what I mean? Do we hope people might play non-league or League One, League Two? Listen, I hope so. But the main thing in life is, okay, can you be pushed? My daughter was struggling with maths. You know what you're going to do when you go home? You're going to get a maths tutor. And you're going to get better at maths. Yeah? My daughter was struggling with reading. You know what you're going to start doing? You're going to do more reading at night. So, hey, me and mum, we've let you down a bit. We've got to do more reading with you. So football's the same. Do you know what I mean? So the more you do it, the more you push, the more you get onto them to do it. But again, it's a fine line between, are you going to shout at them? And I think sometimes it's not shouting at them. So that kid, when I sent him to the V1, I weren't shouting at him. I was like, come on, you can do it, mate. Come on, you can do it. So you're pushing them, but you're pushing them in a way where you're not trying to crush them, if that makes sense. I ain't saying, you know what, that's absolutely terrible, mate. You're not good enough. You'll never be able to do it. Sometimes your terminology of how you say it to a child to push them, as opposed to, that's rubbish. Come on. Don't get me wrong, I do the Gordon Bennett shout the odd time. Do you know what I mean? And that's again that I do that shout. That's obviously, listen, I had Chris Ramsey all my life, and that was his word, and I loved it. So listen, that comes out eventually. That's more of a joke. But yeah, I think sometimes a lot of time it's terminology and how you push on with it. I might say to a kid, you ain't beaten 3 times in this 1v1. I know you can beat him. Show me you can beat him. So then I want him to be like, you know what, Kudus, I'm going to show you I can beat him. By the way, I know that kid can do it because he's shown me he can do it, if that makes sense. So again, it's just that bit of, you know what, I'm gonna push. And funny enough, we've got a kid, and when we're doing shooting or when we're doing striking, I might say to the boy, one of the mums, she knows, I'll be like, come on, that's a baby kick. You can kick harder than that. I spoke to her, we were spoke on the phone 2-3 months ago, and she was Kudus, you know what? Me and my son, we laugh all the time when you say that. Like, he's in the garden striking it. And whenever he don't do the kick properly, I'll say, Kudus is going to say, you got baby kick. But I love that. He's in the garden, pushing himself, trying to kick the ball harder. Again, that's what he needs to improve on his game. But by the way, when he does a proper kick, I'm like, love that. Great strike. I know you can do it. So, again, I think a lot of the time it's terminology and it's how you say it, how you word it to children to try and push them to do more.
Yeah, I've got a live example for you as well with Raf. So it's all about just being totally honest as well. I think a lot of the time it's the terminology, the language, pushing kids, but it's also being honest. You know, if they're doing something that's not their maximum potential, then you should be able to tell them. It's not just, oh no, that's fine, that's great, yeah, don't worry about it, that's really good, if it's not. And Raf, as you know, is left-footed, and he basically refuses to use his right foot. And you told him, it's too predictable. You're doing the same thing every time. Like, you've got to use your right foot. And me and Ben have been telling him that for years, and he just doesn't really do it. But now, because there's like an external person who's telling him this, I promise you now, in the garden when we're playing now, he's using his right foot more. He's starting to use it a little bit more in the games. Sometimes you do need that push, and it's actually like having these external coaches, these academy setups, whatever it might be. It's so beneficial, because sometimes they're in a bit of a vacuum when it's your coach and it's your dad, and it's basically, you hear the same voice over and over and over again, that it gets to a point where it just doesn't mean anything. It's just echoes into their brain. So when someone else comes in, they could almost say the exact same thing, but they're potentially more inclined to listen and then implement it, because one, you'll be on them. if he keeps using his left foot and keeps being predictable, you'll be on him. It's not just don't worry about it, I'll forget about that next week. So I do really like that. And then just for you, Garry, is there any other tips and tricks just around that? Like Kudus just spoke about language, right, and how you can communicate with kids specifically. Is there any kind of tactics or strategies when you're addressing like kids to get them on side, to get them on board with what you're looking to achieve without sending them the other way?
Yeah, I think again a lot of it's kind of trial and error, and obviously giving criticism or constructive points, if you like, combined with obviously recognition. I think a really simple tactic that's always stuck in my head, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on the show, so I won't, is called the dog mess sandwich. So I won't say the words.
Dog mess.
But someone taught me that, spoke to me about that when I got a little bit older in my career. It's giving someone positive, given the constructive point, and then finish with a positive point to finish. So they're actually walking away with something positive, but you've still been able to layer in the criticism or constructive point you want, and that might happen in a team setting. That might happen in an individual 1v1 setting. It might happen in like a development session, a group session. But you can do that, for example, like a 1v1, and I'm like, and it might happen one or two times. Like you might give someone like 2 or 3 good bits of recognition, and it's like, now I want to challenge that kid, but even though he's doing really well, do you know what I mean? But I'm like, I don't want to just keep giving him recognition, because I want to challenge him as well too. So now I'm looking for a bit of criticism or a bit of a poke to get a little bit more out of them, or challenge them to go, like you said, go on their right side next time. And then next time I'm going to maybe see them, might not pull it off, but the attempt to try. They've tried it, and now it's like, oh, okay, cool. He's given me some good stuff. He's given me a couple of constructive points or a little bit of needle. Now he's given me a couple of positive points. So the last thing they're remembering sometimes is the positive points, but you still give them a couple of constructive points within the session, or within maybe a one-to-one conversation as well too.
Absolutely, and that definitely helps. It's a lot easier to do when it's not your son. I seem just 100%. To get to the shit bit. I get to the shit bit. I don't bother with a positive sandwich slice. But no slices are positive. Let's just get straight to the shit.
I don't get me wrong. We are, me and Garry are both constructive. If you watch us coach, we are very much constructive. Hey, come on, focus. Brilliant. I think you said about Raf. I said to Raf, how many feet has God given you? He looks at me and I'm like, yeah, 2. You use your right foot. So we are constructive. And do you know what I mean? I think a lot of the time, parents might come to see a friend and be like, oh my gosh, these guys are not, they're loud. To run the kids, want to do it, but I'm like, out of everything, there's still a lot of praise. Do you know what I mean? I think parents sometimes hear all the constructive stuff, but they never hear the praise. And I think, you know what? There's a lot of praise as well, which goes on in our sessions. Yes, a lot of constructive stuff as well, but there's also a lot of praise. So I think it's just getting that fine line between praise and constructiveness.
What I would say, Kudus, is when you are positive, that is something like Alfie will come and tell me that. Like he'd say, he said this to me. Like he remembers it. It's not meaningless praise. Do you see what I mean? So when he gets it, it actually has some sort of value to him. Because if you're just praising him all the time, he's just like whatever. Like if he sees you being hard on other people and him, then he knows there's an expectation to deliver. He knows that you're not just going to praise him just for turning up. That's the bare minimum. But if you go out there and give your best and you deliver, he's going to give you praise, then that means something to him. So that's what I like about that. Also, when I've watched the sessions, you mentioned it before, there's a tempo and intensity to them, which I like, right? I don't want us standing around. I don't want us walking. This is not match sharpness. That's not how you play in a game. How do you put your sessions together so that, we're working from minute 1 to the end, the kids are focused, there's a good tempo, and they're not losing interest? What are you mapping out the session before? What are you trying to do to ensure that there's an intensity all the way through?
A lot of the time is obviously, listen, I normally send out the session plan for all the coaches on like a Sunday, and then obviously we have our weekly topic which we want to focus on, whether it's skills week, whether it's shooting week, whether it's turns, combinations. But in terms of our session, again, it's a minute to a minute and a half recovery. We don't do none of these. Kids are sipping a drink, they're spinning around, they're slapping each other on the head, because you know how it is, mate. Give kids 5 minutes turnover break, they're going to be mucking about. So a lot of the time we tell our coaches, do you know what I mean, a minute and a half, get a drink, they're back in. Do you know what I mean? When they come in from a drink, the next session should be laid out. So in terms of obviously before you get to your session, making sure all your sessions are all laid out. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. It's all done. Don't get me wrong, you might have to move a few cones out of the way and move things about, but majority of the time the session's got to have, if you say for example we're doing skills week, it'll be a bit of ball mastery, then it'll go on to like a skill practice, then it'll go on to a match practice. So that's 3 blocks. For me, they've got 3 intervals of having a drink. A minute and a half, minute and a half, minute and a half. That's what, 4 minutes of a break time. The rest of the time they're playing. Whether it's 15, 20 minutes, they're locked in and they're ready to play.
And if you were to distill everything you do, this is going to be probably an impossible question to ask, but I'll ask it anyway. And in fact, because you were 15 minutes late, Gary, I'm going to ask it to you. If you were to distill the ethos around CFA and the way that you coach into just kind of one fundamental non-negotiable, what would that be? And what could other grassroots coaches and other coaches think of? Like, what's your mantra? What's your why?
I like the way that he's used my own tactic of a bit of punishment for my bad, my bad thing.
Yeah.
He deserves
Gary,
it.
you're doing a really good job.
He deserves it.
There's an irony to that part. But no, I think our mantra, our why, if you like, our mission statement, or everything that we kind of build on at CFA is obviously sometimes taking a step out of the football situation and go, listen, obviously we hope that kids that have aspirations and parents that have aspirations, because the two have to align. There's no point the kid wanting it and the parent don't, because it's not going to sort of work out a lot of the time as well too. We hope that them ones do go to the next level and forge a career out of football, but we also understand all the obstacles and stuff like that along the way, and there's a lot of life from where they are now to where they want to get to. But at the same time, obviously, there's a lot of children within our community that don't have that aspirations, even if they might think it now. But over time, football's going to be something different maybe for them kids. It's going to be social, it's going to be community, it's going to be memories, it's going to be fun. And that's cool as well too. So I think when we look at a kind of a holistic view of kind of CFA and take a step back from everything and look at the wider community of what can we do from a child that might come to us at 3 years old and be with us until 15 years old or 18, 19 years old, maybe in the future, it's making a positive impact on that person's journey through football. So that might mean in football, it might mean in business, it might mean in life, it might mean making them a better son, a better brother, a better sister. It might mean helping them forge a better career for themselves in the future, understanding that them basic principles that they learn and they had drummed into their ears week in, week out, that they can apply that to becoming a really good solicitor, builder. They can believe to become something a little bit more in the future if that's what they want to do. So I think just in general, making a positive impact on the children through football is kind of everything that we kind of try and stay true to. And like I said, that means different things for different people on their journey, maybe in football, maybe outside of football as well.
We love that, and that's often what we talk about is me and Mike are not deluded. We're not trying to push Alfie or Raf to become professional footballers, but we believe through the lessons learned through sport, hard work, dedication, discipline and consistency and all those kind of things, that's going to set you up for life. We're not worried about you coming up a footballer. We're just trying to give you the habits that you need to succeed in life. And that comes through training and just being there and turning up and being consistent. But before we go, we've got to ask Kudus, Alfie and Raf, what are they doing well? What do they need to do better? Because when I get off this call, we're getting in the garden, mate. So I want to...
Raf knows right foot. I want him to use his right foot. Do you know what I mean? I think with Raf, he's really good on waves. I think he's got good sense of low sense of gravity. So sometimes it's like I'm telling him not to go on the left side all the time, but he still gets past his player. I'm like, oh, he's still getting past him. But if he can get that going both ways, that'll take his game up to another level, because you know how it is. You're going to play against better players, and when you play against better players, if he shows you down the line and he's stronger than you, you've got to be able to jink that way to go inside. So I think for Raf it'll be more for going both sides on his 1v1s. Alf, again, he's done really, really well. Both footed, by the way. So I've started seeing recently he's actually got both foot. He's really good at that shifting left and right. With Alf, I think more when to play, when to release, and when to dribble. I think that's really important for him. Understanding when he's got to pass it and when he's got to dribble. That's what I've seen in his game. I think once he gets that right, again, I think that's what that will obviously get him to another. So with that, that's watching games, that's putting yourself in scenarios where you've got like a 2 versus 1. So am I going to pass it and use my overload, or am I going to go myself? So I think with him, it'll be more of his decision making when he has the ball in areas of the pitch. But yeah, again, I think both boys have won a lot of player of the days. I'm quite, you know how I'm like, someone can win player of the day every week. If they're performing well, I don't do none of this. Oh, it has to go around to everybody on the pitch. If you're working hard on that day, you'll win it. So I know Alfie and Raf have actually both won my player of the day a few times. So again, keep on working hard and them small areas, I think, are the two I think they can both improve.
Appreciate that. So
Yeah,
no,
spot
you're
on.
basically you'll basically say verbatim what me and Mike are saying to both of them. And just quickly before we go, I know people are going to love this episode. Where can they find you? Where can they follow you? Where can they get more from the Complete Football Academy?
I think if they just punch in all of their search bars, Complete Football Academy, they'll find us on Instagram, on Facebook. We're not on so much the YouTube and stuff like that. And maybe you'll see us a little bit more in the future. We've just got to learn how to operate with a laptop and a little bit more on the technology. So I'll hold my hands up on that side, even though that's more my domain as well. So
Yeah. So yes, thank you to Garry and Kudus for coming on and talking about the Complete Football Academy and sharing their insights in developing the mentality that helps young players thrive. If you've ever stood on the touchline wondering, is my child reaching their potential? Do they have the right mentality? Is that coach getting the best out of them? Then this episode is for you. The truth is, mentality isn't something you're simply born with. It can be developed, nurtured and unlocked with the right environment, coaching and support. We hope this conversation gives you the practical advice that helps you ignite your child's mentality monster and gives you the confidence in how to support them along their journey. And don't overthink it, because it's only kids football. If you enjoyed the podcast, please take 2 seconds to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss future episodes. And if you want to check out our previous episodes, just click here.